So let's talk about change. You have to change every day. Without fail, you're having to think of solutions. You got to think about time. You got to think about space. You got to think about people. You got to think about the future. And doing all of those things is great, but not until you're actually present with yourself, you can be able to execute on those things effectively. When you actually have time to actually stay still, have time to actually think and align yourself in the right direction to get you where you need to be, it's not until you can like self-evaluate, because obviously, you know, hindsight is 2020. It allows you to look back and say, okay, these were the problems, this is the solution, this is how I overcome these situations. But not until you're in the moment you actually do things. I know that we think about this grandiose future and what you can get, and it is possible. But if you're not stopping and thinking and changing and altering how you are, you won't be able to get to where you want to be. You're not going to get to that destination. So change is the topic for this, and I believe that change, and the reason why I'm talking about this, because I thought to myself, what do I actually want to talk about? And that word change is a massive thing. A lot of people are scared of it. A lot of people embrace it. Some people don't like it. But ultimately, through your whole period of your life, do you want to stay in the same position, or do you want to become better? Do you want to change and have more and do more and be more? I feel like the way that the system has created society and the people allows them to just look at the world and think that it's not possible, and in that becomes self-hate and being afraid to fail, being afraid to not take action, being afraid to not want to look different to everyone else, afraid of making mistakes. And that is what life is all about. Ultimately, from my perspective, life is about making mistakes, learning from the mistakes, not making the mistakes again, and moving forward from that, because ultimately that's where you gain knowledge, you gain wisdom, and you also just gain a new perspective. And us humans, we learn from when we make mistakes, we learn from pain, we learn from fear. And I know that fear can trap a lot of people from wanting to get to where they need to be. As much as this sounds motivational, XYZ, it's not meant to be. It's just my ideology and on life and change. Another reason for the podcast is because I understand, in terms of articulating yourself, you need to be doing that now more than ever. And I say this to a lot of people. I say you should do this and you should do that and do this and do that, and I help people do this, do that. But the reality is, I know that that's good, but doing it for myself is also great. So you need to set an example and stick to that example and remain disciplined on doing what you need to do. So this is just like my step out in terms of making content and helping from a selfish perspective, but also it's helping others as well. I'm not doing this to gain anything but experience, because the more experience that I'm getting in terms of talking, articulating, dealing with topics, having guests on board and dealing with hard questions and seeing things live from a different perspective, these are things that I like to do anyway, but it's going to allow me to talk more, understand more, and see things from a different perspective, those are things that I actually really like. I am a through and through problem solver, and I am committed to the task when the task is given and I'm interested in it. And that's another thing. A lot of people need to change and do things that they like to do rather than just doing it for doing its sake. Once again, that is inbuilt in a lot of us through the educational system, the system just in general, society, differences, what your parents want, what your friends and partner want, X, Y, and Z. And in that's what stops people, is standing out from what you want and getting what you deserve, and gaining new knowledge and gaining more information and meeting new people. So in order to get to those heights and get what you want, you need to alter your programming. That's another thing that I'm really into, is constantly consuming information that's only going to help me, but also practicing that as well. Sometimes it's hard to do that because you got so many things on in life, but going back to what I said earlier on, it's about change. And sometimes instead of being in the all action, you need to just be stopping and thinking, stopping and aligning yourself in the right direction. I do that I do that say like 4 times a year, but in reality, the more that you do that and you get the feedback, you can get into the directions, the doors, the places, the things that you want. And those things might just be small tweaks. It doesn't need to be a massive shift. It's just knowing what you want while you're doing it, and then actually doing it. And that fearful element is stopping a lot of people. It stops me, it's stopping you, it's stopping the world in a way. It's just those that are courageous and that want to take the heat, that'll do anything down. It's do or die. It's about making sure it's just happening and making sure that you're living up to who you are, what you want to be. And if you're changing to become better and changing for what you want, you need to see yourself from a different perspective. You need to see yourself as so much more higher and better, and being competitive, even not even competitive, just knowing that what you're doing is gonna play out regardless. Being competitive is great because you can have that one-to-one skill with someone, but on the flip side, it's like knowing that you're going to be at the highest level and delivering at that highest level, and knowing that you're capable of doing it. It only means that you need to put the time and the practice in. So it's not hard, because I would love to say it's not hard, but it takes time. I'm not gonna lie. I would say that I've done, out of all the things that I've done, I've probably done more than a lot of people that I know in, for example, school. Like if I was to explain and share some of the stories that I've done opening all these different types of businesses and been in loads of different scenarios, it'd be like, fucking hell, that's mad. But on the flip side, I've had to go through that, and going from that now is giving me a base of information and knowledge that I can jump from to say, okay, what I really want isn't far, because I've tasted a bit of that. And it's not until you have that self-confidence and build up self-love for yourself instead of self-hate, which I feel that society's perpetuating, that's when you can actually lift off and be who you need to be and be where you want to be. So what is it that I need to focus on, and what is it that you need to focus on? Like this has many partitions and variants in your life. So it could be an internal thing. Is that internal thing building up your confidence in order for you to be who you need to be? Is that a skill set? Is that knowledge? Is that information? Is that you needing to stop and think? Is that you being more analytical? Is it you being more creative? Or is it an external thing? Do you need to be around a lot more people that are doing the exact same thing as you? Do you need less people around you so you can completely focus on where you need to be? Sometimes there's time for being around people, and there's time for you in complete solitude and focusing on what you need to do. And I believe that you need to be down the middle with both, really. But on the flip side, there is times where you need to switch between both. Because doing what you're doing, or business, or whatever you aspire to be, means that you need to have that focus in those areas. Within this world that we're living in at the moment, with social media and the information and knowledge and gossip and education everywhere, it's great. But I feel like there is so much information that it's actually stopping people from actually taking action, because they're consuming as much as they can to make sure they've got all the information, and they're not taking action on it. And then you can't get a result if you're just constantly getting all that information. You can't get a result if you're not making changes, or failing, or making mistakes. You gotta do all of these things. But I feel like within this world right now, our focuses are a lot more on the mobile phone, social media, clout, being here, being there. And that's okay to do those things if you want to do those things, if those things are fulfilling you. But if they're not fulfilling you, then the question is, why are you doing it? And the distraction as well of spending anywhere from 3 to 6 hours a day on your phone plus, and not actually using that time to actually execute or actually go internal and think about yourself and what you need to do, or aspire for those new skills and those new things. It might be thinking, why am I thinking about wanting more? But that is what we've always done. Like, we've always wanted more, whether that's more information or knowledge to grow. It depends on what information and knowledge do you actually need, and then the action to actually do those things. I'm not sure what's crippling people from not taking action, and I suppose a lot of it comes down to fear. But the question is, what is it that you need to change? I know that I've had to change a lot of things in order for me to get to where I am now. And if I was to speak to my 15-year-old, 18-year-old self, they'd say, Theo, for what you've done so far, mate, I really can't. You've done shitloads. You've done a lot. And in that, you've learned a lot. And there's only a few tweaks that you need to take in order to get where you need to be. And that's good, because that gives me that confidence of knowing that. But I suppose not everyone has that, and some people do. But I believe that you need to start becoming your biggest cheerleader. You need to be your biggest mascot more than ever now, in order for you to get to where you need to be. And some people say, oh, isn't that a bit big-headed, and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. That's what they think, because that's how they think about themselves. That's how they think about themselves, because they're uncomfortable being around someone that has confidence. They're uncomfortable being around people that aspire for more and being better. And that might sound like taking shots at people that are like that. It's not. It's just the fact that if you know that you're great at something, why stop? Why dumb yourself down for other people? Why dumb yourself down? Why not shine if you've got a skill and you've got talent, or you've got your creation? Why not share it with people? Why not tell people? And that needs to be perpetuated more. It needs to be like, okay, you're doing this and you're doing that, and that's good, and it's about sharing it. But I feel like there gets to a point of that fear of people looking and saying, you know what, who does he think he is? Who does she think she is? Can't do that. Can't do this. Never had that. Never had this. Like, don't trust this. I don't trust that. End of the day, that's their opinion. But if you allow those opinions to shape who you are, you'll never be who you need to be. So I'm going to kind of cut this short here, and I want to just put this to you. What is it that you need to change in order for you to be your higher self? Who is it that you need to be? What do you need to do? What information do you need? Where do you need to step in order to be who you need to be? Because being your higher self is the whole reason why you're here. And if you're not being this person, you're not being it because of the people around you and the information that you've been taught. Hence the reason why creating this content, because I know that I've got shitloads that I need to say and do and bring people on and have the conversations. It's just prioritizing self. And when you prioritize yourself, you'll remember, okay, that high being's telling you, okay, this is why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to help this person. I'm doing it to help that person. But all in all, it helps me. And in the information that you get through this podcast, I hope it changes something. I hope it helps you. Share it with a friend. The algorithm likes when you share this content, so I'd love for you to share this. Share it with a friend, like it, and subscribe, because more of this content's going to come out. I'm going to be spending more time in the studio. I'm going to be getting more content out there because, yeah, this is what's needed. So this is episode 1 of the podcast. Much love.